Sound Mark 1. That's how we're going to begin every episode from now on. Welcome back to the Curiosity Detectives. This is part 2 of a 2-parter we're doing on demons. I'm your host, and I'm Aki, with my other host, whose name is...
Rob.
A beautiful name. Now, the Curiosity Detectives will just recap on what we do. Our goal is to explore everything ranging from the dark unknown, scientifically obscure, and the socially unconventional. We explore subcultures and beliefs and bring you our light-hearted opinions mixed in with some heavy truths. Heavier than my man. Ultimately, we're just here to have fun and would love to have as many people along for the ride. I'm assuming my mom's not going to listen to this. Mom, you've lost loads of weight, you look great. If I was a younger man and not related to you, things might be different. On this parter, I'm going to be taking the lead on talking about the demons, and Rob's going to provide his opinions and queries on it. Rob, what do you think you're going to be expecting from me today?
Can I just start with a brief disclaimer, please?
You may start with.
Is that okay?
You can start with a disclaimer.
It's only just occurred to us, so collectively we have called ourselves the Curiosity Detectives. I just want to make sure that people don't confuse her with 2004 indie sensation, the Pigeon Detectives.
That's always going to be a risk, Rob. When you take on the mantle of detective, you're always going to be confused. Basil, the Great Mouse Detective, Inspector Gadget, who's somewhat a detective. I'm not familiar with the Pigeon Detectives. I know the name, but I'm more of a scouting for girls kind of guy.
Oh, they were probably not as big cunts as Scouting for Girls, but they're definitely up there.
I
mean, I'm sure they're not.
Do they have any hits I'd know?
I'm sure they're nice lads, but I can't remember. I think it was mostly like pigeon-based indie rock.
There's Christ.
Would you like to ask us your initial question again?
I don't even know what my initial. Rob, what do you think of the Pigeon Detectives?
Right, so part 2 demons. I'm looking forward to what you've got lined up.
Excellent, that's what I want to hear. Now, going away from the normal convention and formula of the show we've strongly established over several episodes, I'm going to give a little bit of backstory to the demon and more of its history before we sort of get onto the antics of what this demon's about. Now, the demon I'm talking about today first is Belphegor. Now, Belphegor is a Judeo-Christian demon that has its roots within the Bible. It's very Old Testament stuff. Now, he is the Lord of the Opening, and he's also known as the Ambassador to France, which will become very apparent as I sort of explain what he's about. Now, Belphegor's sole purpose was he was designed with Satan, a purpose to go to the earth and see if marital love was a real thing, or whether Satan could exploit it for his own gain, and therefore damning souls. Now, because of Christian roots, they don't want to sort of poke holes in marriage because it is one of the most sacred vows allowed. Belphegor came back and said, look, Satan, I can't find any holes in marriage as a concept. It's absolutely tight. However, I did go to this low-key shithole called France, more specifically Paris, and Satan said, fair enough, mate, I'm going to make you the ambassador of France. Now, when he is in France, what he does is he puts ideas into men's head, and this also gave him the title of the Lord of Sloth. So when you think about the 7 deadly sins, which we talked about before, sloth is amongst them.
Yeah.
And what he would do is he would give people ideas, and these ideas were always doomed to fail, and it was the idea of making a quick buck for nothing, something which I think is very prevalent today still. So he would basically give them these ideas, and people would, through their own lasers, have these great ideas and sort of live off the success of that, but it'd be very short-lived, and what they'd find is the life started deteriorating as they became so enamoured with their own initial success, they were always going to be doomed to failure because of their sloth that would take over them. But what's weird about him is there's loads of stuff that is also attached to him but is just so not necessary. So in his representation, he's always referenced in like phallic symbiology. So every representation of him is always used in sort of penis sort of statues and the like, but there's no physical need for it. It says that you...
That's just That's just Christianity.
So that's fine. I mean, there's no need for it now, but it does come from the fact that he used to be in the sort of Judean version before the Christians sort of took him and championed him. He was very much the Lord of...
Championed them.
He was sort of the Lord of sexual abandon, which is sort of why, he was going around Paris in the first place. And he's a fallen angel.
Okay.
And he's basically one of the disciples of Mephistopheles.
Right.
So he's got some very sort of roots that go here, there, and everywhere. So he's sort of looking for things like laziness. He's inciting riches. He wants sloth, but he's also relying on people's vanity and their own creations. and apparently he's also very difficult to summon. Now, if for a chance you do summon Belphegor, the way you want to appease him is by offering him excrement. So he's very much appeased by human shit, which is something I relate to, so I can kind of get behind that. You know what? Everyone needs a cube every now and then. Wombats, for example, do actually have cube-shaped shits, so they don't roll away. I'm not sure Belphegor does, but or if the shape and diameter of the shit will appease them any more than others. Like, I don't know if diarrhea would have any more effect. But it's an interesting offering.
Can I just stop? Can I just stop you there for a second?
You can stop me forever.
When you said Wombat, are you referring to the 2000s indie band, the Wombats?
You know I am. Like, those guys were on it like nothing but a cube-based diet. They would eat nothing but like, bean curd and like reformed soy protein, and unfortunately just meant cubic shit. But like, whereas in Wombats, it's a natural occurring instance, so that they can mark territory. For the band, the Wombats, it's literally just because their anuses are in a cube shape.
Yeah, it's just preference. I heard, like, it just purely comes down to a matter of preference for them.
Well, you know, their shit is the only three-dimensional thing about them.
I think it was a real conscious decision by the A&R men. They really wanted to push the whole like cuboid feces element as part of their sort of band image, and that's what kind of cemented them as one of the greats, really.
Well, you look at Britpunk in general, and Britpop, a lot of it's been pretentious, and people will do anything to get attention, and I don't put cubic shit past anyone these days.
I mean, so much of it is based around feces as well. I mean, you know,
there's so much shit out there. How do you separate one shit from the other? And I think shape and texture is the only way you're going to do it. But under Belphegor, obviously, he's got all these weird traits about him. If we look at one description that sort of goes beyond the phallic shapes, this is his description. So he can either appear as a beautiful young woman or as a naked, hideous demon being with a beard, horns, and a gaping mouth and sharp nails. So both of them is objectively beautiful women. Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
You know, who are you to determine, you know, what's attractive and what's not? Hideous? What, is having a beard hideous? I don't think so.
No, I mean, as a beard wearer myself, I would vehemently object to that.
Exactly, and I find it offensive. But let's go into specifics about him. With the antics he's getting up to, Rob, how do you think that affects us as a society today? Do you think it's still relevant? Do you have any thoughts about him in general?
Well, like you touched on, I think there's a lot. I mean, first of all, I'm just going to say bravo to, you know, Rich Pickens. There's a lot of themes in there that are very sort of in the sense of traditional Christianity and Judean folklore and mythology. The one thing that really sort of piqued my interest was the idea of like Satan, particularly like just picking him and being like, look, Belphegor, can you just step into my office? I've got a job for you. Like, I'm very much always intrigued by how like hell's presented, or at least this is the way I interpret it, is some sort of corporate structure where, like, you know, he's very very much like, I don't know what Belphegor would be like. Would he be line management? Would he be like project manager? I'm feeling like there's so much nebulous shit attached to him, but like you could say that for any demon.
Oh, he's head of department.
Like,
he's one of those smug shit-eating heads of departments that come in, wave the dick around, and then leave, or tits, depending on gender.
Comes in with his coat just draped over his shoulders,
over his sharp suit, which you can never afford.
Spits in the potted plant.
Yeah, so I mean, his hierarchy is generally an interesting one. Now, just to recap there, so Mephistopheles is the direct lieutenant of Satan, and he serves under Mephistopheles. So he's middle management. It's got to be middle management, right? He's deciding whether you get a pay rise or not. But continue with your thought.
Are you talking about Mephistopheles as in the Faustian agent of Lucifer?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not entirely I mean, as I believe it, that comes from sort of, the work of Faust, and it's heavily sort of based in German folklore, but I'm not entirely sure about the lineage and the sort of, basically what I'm saying is I don't know what the power structure is. Maybe that's one to look into for next time.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's also convoluted. You look at, let's be honest, we're looking here at different sources all over the place, and everyone's either representing a mythological version of a demon or one taken from biblical structure. And obviously our aim is to always keep it as biblical or as close to actual practice in religion as possible. But I think a lot of times when you look at people that are researching this, and from any angle, especially when we're getting second harvest of this, it becomes more convoluted.
I mean, it goes without saying as well, we are very much amateur enthusiasts, so,
But qualified detectives, pigeon or otherwise.
I mean, yeah. That also goes without saying. So, you asked us what do I think of his impact on contemporary society?
So what do you think about what he was doing at the time, but what do you think that sort of translates over to now?
Well, I think at the time he's very much, once again, a tool of the church. It was part of the tradition of using fear as an instrument for power, and it's not. I mean, he is mentioned. I believe he is mentioned in the Old Testament, but it is hardly a cornerstone of Judaism or Christianity. So I think it's generally something that's gained more prevalence in sort of maybe medieval Renaissance, moving into the Renaissance period, as those things tended to gain a little bit more prevalence in those times. But as for today, I don't think. I mean, you mentioned that it was to do with infidelity and extramarital affairs and stuff, didn't you?
Yes, so that was his original purpose.
That was his original purpose.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's obviously a link to the Ten Commandments, and it's also like we said about some of the earlier ones in episode 1. There's a lot of links to notable works of the period, like the Divine Comedy and Dante's Inferno. A lot of these things kind of picked up on, but also kind of invented.
That's basically what we appreciate as biblical texture now, taking from earlier texture and create
they very much
narrative.
Picked up the ball and ran with it for a lot of this like folklore and stuff. Mephistopheles, as you mentioned, being a great example of that in the work of Faust. But as for today, I can't really say I see any DNA in contemporary society regarding Belphegor. I don't think he's got much of an imprint. All of the shit things that he represents and has apart from that, basically, which are always going to be there, always have been there. I don't think he's had much of a contribution, to be honest. I think if Forbes is going to do an influential list of demons in 2019, I don't think he'd be fucking anywhere near the top.
Not one of the greats. Interestingly, within the biblical context, he's also the enemy of the sixth Sephiroth, the patron angel of beauty. Just thought that would interest you. An adversarial relationship between beauty and sloth.
He's obviously a man that can wear many hats. You know what I mean? He's a bit of a. It seems to me that he's been a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none in his time.
Now you're saying hats there. Hold on to that thought, because that's going to become very, very much necessary in something I'm going to talk about later. Not with this demon, but just remember hats. That's the key word.
So, do you have anything else to say about Belfast Road before we move on?
Yeah, I do. I just want you to just. What do you think about offerings of shit? Any thoughts? Would you accept an offering of shit?
Offerings of shit.
I'm just wondering where the thought of that comes from, like offerings of shit. Like, is it linked to fertile? Because I tried searching it, and like, there's not many people offering shit.
I suppose it's a very sort of, it's very visceral imagery, isn't it? Like, you know, excrement in itself is, you know, it's foul, it's waste, it's associated with a spread of diseases. It's a shameful act. I mean, I personally take great pride in mine, but like, you know, it's traditionally and like quite universally among people, it's quite a shameful subject.
Yeah.
So I would think it's pretty much par for the course that it becomes sort of synonymous with demonology and sort of demonic folklore and ritual. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's almost as if like you're going to be like, oh, this bloke's a demon and like he works for Satan and you've got to give him a present. You've got to give him a present. Of what do you get him? Like,
his secret Santa.
Like what would a demon like? I don't know. Shit. Like, it's low hanging fruit, isn't it? Really.
But I mean, the slim pickings of what can be more grotesque to offer someone apart from, you know, mutilation of humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it very much speaks for itself. So I think let's move on. Now I have another one lined. Up for you, and there's a picture I'm looking at right now, which I really have to share with you at some point.
Okay, well, do you want to refer that image, because
I will refer the image. I'll describe the image once we've had a little bit of description, audio described. Right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the Encantado. Now, I believe you've heard of this one before, Rob. And
I certainly have.
I know this is going to stem to one of your natural hatreds, which we'll touch on. Now, the Encantado is a water cryptid demon. It comes from Brazilian sort of folklore and mythology, so it's one of those sort of stepping away from the Bible and established religions. Not something we're going to do all the time, but it's just so interesting. I think it needs to be mentioned because it very much has a bearing, in fact, on how people react to it. So
can I just interject for a second?
Can you?
You mentioned he's a water cryptid, and I just wanted.
I'm just touching around this. Cause I don't think you're ready to hear the words.
I just want to elaborate on maybe what that means for people that aren't as familiar. As I understand it, cryptid is specifically some sort of animal hybrid, bestial sort of creature. So think, you know, cryptozoology, which is sort of the pseudoscience of spurious creatures like the Yeti and Bigfoot and Prince Philip and things like that.
Of course, very elusive creatures. Thought to be extinct, but we know still exist.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, so it's just basically creatures not really recognised by the scientific community but have been reported. Things like the Loch Ness, Prince Philip, etc. So when we say water cryptid, more specifically what this creature takes on the appearance of is a dolphin. Now,
yeah,
it's referred to as things like a weird dolphin, all kinds of stuff, but the Encantado comes from a place called Encante, and what its purpose is to come to the land and basically entice women to come back to the sea and then viciously take on its dolphin form and then impregnate them. Now, we mentioned hats. Now, unfortunately, Encantado, as much as a good shapeshifter as it is, can't take on a full human form. Its blowhole, unfortunately, is always visible.
It just can't do faces.
It's just terrible with faces, so it has to wear a full hat. So I don't want to say this is fact, but typically they'll be seen sporting a fedora or other top shop hatwear, or is there a term?
Like the
such as the Pigeon Detectives, which is this is all coming full circle. It's it's weird that it's always coming to musicians. Being
or other mid-2000 indie rocker Pete Doherty, noted hat wearer and sex dolphin.
Noted hat wearer, definitely. As for sex dolphin, like, that guy can fucking go back to the ocean. Like, fuck him. I mean, I actually don't know anything about him apart from he was seeing Kate Moss in, I think, 2002, circa 2003 Heat magazine. I'm not too sure.
I don't know.
Now,
so, can I just ask a question? Can. Where does this originate from again? Encantado or whatever it's called? Canyonero? Brazil, yeah. I believed it was like South American.
So it's Brazil. So Encantado it's a Brazilian Portuguese word that basically translates to enchanted one or charmed, depending on which sort of site you look at. And it comes from a paradisical underwater realm, which I said before, it's called Encante. So if you describe the human form in appearance terms, they basically take on a pale-skinned and are often described as being graceful in manner. They usually wear
Pete Doherty.
I know they wear bright clothes, and the clothes are always in an old-fashioned style, often out of vogue, as you might say.
Pete Doherty
again, but the thing is, though, Pete Doherty has ever been reported as bald, because that guy's got paparazzi on him all the time, or he did when he was relevant.
I don't know. The last story I heard about him was him eating like some gutbuster breakfast in some fucking scruffy cat somewhere. Now, like after a period of like fairly like aggressive press attention, where like he very much seemed like his life was unraveling. He kind of dropped out of the zeitgeist, and then that was his only notable appearance, as far as I'm aware, in the past sort of 2, 3, maybe even 5 years.
Well, that's reported appearances through the paparazzi, and that's only because he's not relevant. However, like, everyone sees him every now and then. So for those of you who don't know, I've got a cat, lovely Misty, and I get my cat these lovely treats called Dreamies. I won't mention the store I get them from, but the brand is fine. These treats are lovely. I've never tried them myself. I get them for my cat, and I bought like 3 packs because
other cat treats are available.
They are certainly available, subject to pricing and availability. And I get these lovely treats for, as well as the standard whiskers, and I always put the cat treats at the bottom, underneath the whiskers, just so the cat doesn't like go crazy, try and smell them out. And I was just going downstairs for Slash. I've got a downstairs toilet, Slash's urination. And I could hear rustling, and this is I was telling you before the podcast started that I bought a CCTV unit, and this is the reason why. So I just see this like straw hat out the corner of my eye, and who's scratching my Dreamies treats? None other than Pete fucking Doherty. So although his celebrity sightings are few and far between, this is why I want him to go back to the ocean. He just constantly, like, one of my mates was telling us he's got dogs. He was like, he's got a couple of big Alsatians. He was like, he was just sitting in the corner of the room, just eating fucking kibbles, drinking Carlsberg. Fucking prick. So yes, so basically it takes on a sort of, but what's different? Sorry, I'm mumbling a bit here, but it's very different from normal sort of creatures that we talk about in demons, because it doesn't take on the appearance of loved ones. It takes on, like, an appearance of a random person or a man, basically a bald man or a pale man.
There tends to be one of several schools of thought. Mm-hmm. Either it is somebody familiar, or it tends to be somebody like some sort of ethereal, like, seductive figure. And I feel that Encantado, although being some sort of fucking dolphin perv, very much falls into the latter. You know what I mean? Not my idea of seductive enchantress, but but it's got the best of both worlds, really. So the Encantado on the human side is the sort of the charming, and it's basically got a love of music, which is how it sort of lulls people. But it's also got the dolphin side of, it loves sex, which, dolphins, notorious fuckers, notorious. Also, what's interesting about the Encantado is that it's attracted at parties. So it's apparently got a natural curiosity towards human society, and when it sees festivals or parties going on, it wants to go there and enjoy the music. And I can hear you saying it, and like, I'm just saying there's a lot of correlation here between this dolphin-esque demon and a well-known pork pat wearing cunt. Yeah.
The only thing that sort of separates it is that it basically has a lot of illegitimate children apparently. And last time I mentioned there was those riots as the result of the Papa Bauer. This time there's reports that I'm seeing here, which there are links all over the place, but we'll say it is fact, that within the folklore that people are scared to this day to go into watered areas. No, not like the bath. Along parts of the Amazon because of the connotations of these creatures. I mean, I would think there's far more to be scared of, but them's the reports. No one likes to be abducted and fall in love with a dolphin at the best of times. So, you know.
So, just touching on this, because as you mentioned, this is one that I am familiar with. So, as coincidence may have it, there is actually a species of dolphin native to the Amazon River.
Yeah.
And that would be the Amazon River dolphin, also known as the Boto.
That's the one.
So, while being in the dolphin family, your more sort of well-known species, your bottlenose, they don't exactly look like that. Now, in my opinion, dolphins are pretty weird looking, anyways.
I've got strong opinions about dolphins,
but I have strong opinions about dolphins, and I will elaborate on that in a minute. But they're a little bit more out there in terms of your standard sort of photogenic flipper dolphin that most people are used to.
Yeah.
While they're very interested in cool species of animal, they're pretty fucking ugly.
They don't have the pretty eyes that dolphins have.
They have like a big bulbous sort of almost Cro-Magnon forehead, and then they have the whole sort of dolphin horrible just creepy mouth that always looks somewhat smug. What the fuck you smug about, you fucking horrible prick.
Yeah, it's like.
But anyways, so I find it very coincidental that there happens to be this species of dolphin in the river. Then this folklore about this Encantado demon takes on aspects of, as so many of these things do, take on aspects of reality in terms of there's dolphins in the river. Obviously, someone fucked a dolphin.
Naturally.
And now everyone's scared of going in the river and stuff because these stupid fucking legends have emerged about some dolphin that fucking turns into a person and then just fucking has its fucking moist way with you. But I, for one, as I've mentioned, don't like dolphins. Reason I don't like dolphins is because they're cunts. Primarily why I think they're cunts is because, one, people love them so much, and I don't feel like it's commensurate with what they're actually like. So I think people look at dolphins,
Dolphins have had very
highly
good
intelligent. PR. Yeah, they've had amazing PR. Like we're talking like Pigeon Detectives PR here. Like they're not all they're cracked up to be. Let's put it that way. So they're a highly intelligent aquatic mammal. They've displayed like quite sophisticated levels of sentience. They're known to display quite a varied, almost sort of, and one of the ways we measure intelligence in other species is like how much like human beings they are. So they have sophisticated social constructs and where they care for their young. And the flip side of that is dolphins are also massive pedos. So one can argue that most sex in the animal world is rape, like due to the absence of any sort of clear consent. but I feel like dolphins just sort of take more boxes in the rape column than most species, because like they will actively separate dolphins from a pod, often young dolphins of any species, any gender, and just fuck it to death. So, you know, if you want to go to fucking Florida and swim with a fucking pedo rapist, then by all means do. They've got smug. Also, I've been up close and personal with dolphins, and they fucking stink. Fucking rancid bastards.
What does it smell like?
So primarily, they just smell like fucking horrible fishy nonsense. But basically, that's why I hate dolphins. Primarily because I respect dolphins. I think they're great creatures and stuff. But why I hate them is because people have fucking put them on this pedestal of being like this fucking lovely, graceful, like almost like angelic being that just fucking swims in the ocean and turns up and saves the day when someone's having fucking trouble at sea.
Yeah.
But really, they're just animals, and they're horrible cunts like every other animal.
Well, I remember reading a story about a dolphin where it was in captivity, it was having trouble, and it was getting depressed, and the woman would give it regular hand jobs to sort of make it feel better about itself. And you're just wondering...
There was an Israeli woman who married a dolphin.
Was there?
I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. There also was a story more local to ourselves, dating back to the 90s, I believe, where a dolphin had, I think it was a believe it was a spotted dolphin. I may be wrong on that, so I apologise if I am. But had been frequenting the Northumberland coast in areas like Lindisfarne, and I believe researchers from I believe it was Newcastle University, but once again it may have been Northumbria or other universities. We're going up because obviously, you know, they do occasionally come into these waters in the North Sea, but it's not a frequent occurrence. And the researchers had been going out, they'd been swimming with a dolphin, they'd been trying to like study it and stuff, and just observe it. But anyways, apparently some academic had been taking out a load of like students, like I'm presuming like marine biology or something like that, and had sort of built up a bit of a rapport with this dolphin, and another academic got a little bit jealous, so started to manually stimulate the dolphin in order to sort of ingratiate himself with the dolphin.
Yeah.
And perhaps build up a stronger bond, you know, like just a little sort of
works in the human world.
platonic hand job. Understandably, you know, this made a lot of the bystanders a little bit uncomfortable, and I believe that academic did get into a little bit of trouble for doing that to the dolphin. So, you know, just in the interest of parity, I am admitting that dolphins can also be the victims of sex crimes, not only the perpetrators. So yeah, that's just a little story closer to home, and for some reason, you know, which is probably more telling about human nature than anything else. If, like I mentioned before, the one way the one sort of metric we always use for animals like this, or any other species, or whatever you want to categorise it as, is how much they are like us. And generally, the second thought afterwards is, can I fuck it or can I kill it? and I believe that's primarily where most of these sort of demon legends come from. They come from an unenlightened time where people did the same fucking heinous shit that they do now and came up with fucking weird fucking reasoning for it, and then over time that sort of oral history, pun intended, has sort of just morphed into some sort of dolphin demon bullshit, really. Like that's my verdict on Encantado.
And I think what we should look at, Rob, is sort of what we've uncovered as a whole rather than just the Encantado itself. So sort of recap on what we've discovered when we've been looking at demons. Do you have any thoughts on what we've discovered over the past couple of weeks?
Specifically with this example, I tend to find that, the demons tend to be a figure either enforcing some agenda, or they tend to be an excuse for some sort of transgression. So in the instance of Belphegor and Tityvilius, they are tools of administering subjugation, that to get people to toe the line. And then with Incandado and Papa Bauer, they're very much I know fear is the currency when we're talking about demons, but they're almost an excuse for behaviour that's deemed taboo, or generally is just a little bit heinous and odd. Like, it tends to be those two schools of thought for me. That's where this shit comes from.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, people being cunts.
Definitely, I think you're right. When we look at the first two, I think it's very much a sort of method of control, whether it be from Judaism, Christianity. You could probably look at many other religions, and they'll have these kind of figures appearing at various points, whether it's for people having extramarital affairs, whether it's for people that steal, people that mispronounce fucking words in church. There'll be something that goes against a doctrine, and that's sort of why they exist. It's to instill fear into almost a method of control, which, a more cynical person could say that's the whole ideology behind most religions anyway. But it's very much the stick and opposed to the carrot when it comes to worship, which I think doesn't really fit into any narratives these days, which is why it's not practiced as much. When I looked at sort of videos about demons, just doing general research, the majority of stuff I came across was demonic possession, and a lot of times it just seems to be people using these sort of extra sort of subversive celestial beings as excuses for their own actions. Like people saying, I was possessed by evil. Specifically, I was watching a Louis Theroux documentary, and it was the one where he goes to a prison, and he's in a prison yard, and it's very much apparent that this prison yard is for people high up on the sex offenders registry. And he's talking to this gentleman, he's just asking them, like, what are you here for? He's like, I did some bad things, and I was possessed by a demon. And it's pretty much inferred that he was a paedophile, or at least a high caliber rapist.
But once again, that is a way of externalizing responsibility,
exactly,
isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the sort of I think that's most of the times you'll ever hear about demons these days. It's very rare that people will sort of mention demon sightings. A lot of times it'll either be ghosts or extraterrestrials is sort of in vogue these days when you come to spirituality, not really demonic possession.
I mean, as we'll eventually come to. I mean,
I would love to talk about ghosts, just and extraterrestrials, like just obscure sightings and stories. It's just a great topic. It's just a shame.
Unusual stuff.
It
certainly isn't. It isn't the thing of the past. I mean, it does very much still occur today. However, like in the example of demons and stuff, I think the simple fact of the matter is that like this was reasoning and logic from a less enlightened time, and the simple fact of the matter is that just doesn't hold water in like to modern eyes and minds. Like, it's quite obvious what happened, and there's always going to be someone that believes in it because people are fucking stupid. But
exactly right. I mean,
it's just bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, look at how the stories change even within their own context. Motivations for demons change, appearances change. There are so many variables that make it so hard to identify and so watery that it's almost a joke, isn't it? Really. Especially for the Incandado. And then of course you've got the more mythical side of things that don't come from a sort of massively religious context, where it's just sort of inherent in folklore, and you're sort of reminiscent of things like the Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, things which are not so transient in nature.
So, have you got anything else to add about Incandado before ask you my special question, and then we'll draw a line into things for the night?
Yeah, I've got nothing more to mention about Incandado. I mean, like I said, dolphins, fuckers. Like, it's a slippery, watery bastard. But you know what? He said he stinks. Looks like he stinks. I'll quickly mention that picture though that I was looking at, because it is a hilarious picture. So it's a gentleman holding a hat, holding the Incandado, but it's a small pink sort of. Imagine if you could shave a dolphin if the greyness was fur, because the dolphins you were mentioning from the Amazon are sort of pink on their underbelly, kind of like the texture of like a shaved cat or a mole rat, and almost scaly in nature. So the hideous little things with tiny little beady eyes. I'm not shaming for appearance, you know. I mean, I wouldn't do it to a human, but I'll take special exception for this demon. And this guy's got this most like bald as brass smile, and I think he's about to put a hat on to cover his blowhole. Hilarious little picture. Maybe we'll make that the icon for the episode. He looks chuffed with himself. Like he's just won the Encantado as a prize. The caption is a strange computer animated picture showing Encantado, so the source isn't even referenced in it. It's just a strange computer animated picture. The picture's not even animated.
You've just triggered another reason why I hate dolphins. So
you're not going to talk about
dolphins are one of dolphins also. I don't know if it's all species of dolphin, but I know many of them also have an opposable penis, which, if you've ever seen, is an absolutely horrific sight. So what they'll do is they'll just have this fucking wandering penis, it's this horrible fucking grey, just fucking sinister looking cock, and you'll often hear stories of people who sort of tell you their experiences of swimming with dolphins and stuff. And they're highly intelligent, obviously within a framework of relativity. Basically, if you just imagine like a 9-year-old with like a really high libido, so like a dolphin will swim up. There'll be stories of a dolphin swimming up next to someone, and it'll just fucking like hook their shorts with its cock and just fucking drag them like a few feet, and then I just think that's some really, really unpleasant stuff, and I don't like it, and I'm not going to stand for it. Right?
And that's how the Libertines was formed.
That is exactly how the Libertines were.
Bloke.
Carl Barat, Pete Doherty hooked Carl Barat with his penis.
Right, so guys,
and then.
Oh no, well I've already said that now, so I'll have to edit that out. Continue your sentiment.
It doesn't matter.
Right, so just do closing remarks now, do you think?
Yeah, do you want my question?
Oh, no, yeah, you can interject the question. I think you should always do your closing remarks. I'm going to edit this bit out. You should always do, I'm going to do closing remarks, then you always, stop me with the question. I like that being the thing. I'm always trying to wrap it up, then the question comes. Is a reoccurring theme.
So are you going to do closing remarks?
Yeah. So
and then you can put it to me.
I think you're like, oh yeah, sure. So, obviously, thank you for listening to our thoughts on demons. Plenty of food for thought there to talk about. Rob, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I've just got one question. If you've
okay.
If you'll indulge us.
Yeah, sure.
So, my question for you today is, it comes in more. It comes in two parts, basically.
Okay.
So I'll give you a little bit of background first. Today, I was in a lift today, and I was just wondering what's your opinion on lifts, and also what's the weirdest thing you've ever done or seen in a lift. Reason I ask is just because I got in a lift today, and many people are scared of getting into lifts. I'm not, but that being said, I often find them as very contemplative sort of places. So you're hemmed in what's often quite a small metal box, and either you're hemmed in with people, which is awkward in a social way, and often the strangers, it's awkward eye contact, smells, this, that, and the other. You feel like you can't really have a conversation if you're with someone and the stranger's there. Just an overall awkward experience. Equally, if you're alone, there are often places where when you're alone, it's kind of just a little bit of self-contemplation. Often they're mirrored, so you look at yourself and it's just kind of oh, what's going on, and then you just you're also in the middle of a journey, so you're traveling from one floor to the next, and you kind of compose yourself for arriving on the other side, and you might like you might check your hair's all right. Or anything.
Yeah.
So I just think that they're a really sort of weird place that like is very, very common and everyday, and just wondered if there's any weird stuff you've seen or done on the lift. I could tell you my weirdest lift story first if you would like.
I would love that, please.
So I'd say my weirdest lift experience. Well, not necessarily my weirdest, but my most notable one was I was visiting my grandma, who at the time and presently still lives in a residential care home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a care home for people who who could no longer care for themselves unassisted, who was living, and there was varying degrees of like residents. Some were quite like severely dependent. Others were quite self-sufficient, and they just needed a little bit of help here and there. So anyways, my grandma's room is on the second floor.
Okay. Sorry,
first floor. So you would have to get in a lift to get there. So when you go in the lift, and the lift, to get the lift back down, it's got a keypad system. So you've got to know the key code to get in, and almost as if it wasn't a place for elderly people to live. If I remember rightly, the key code for the main entrance was 1944, and the keypad for the lift was 1066.
What is that like?
So any history buffs, like any criminals or anyone wanting to break in who's a history buff, would have been like absolutely sorted. But anyways, so I was at the time I'd finished visiting my gran, and I was just about to leave, so I'd press the button to summon the lift, and I typed the code in, and this elderly woman came around the corner just as I got into the lift, and she was like, "Oh, will you stop the lift for us, please? I'm just going to go and get my bag." Now at this moment I kind of hesitated, so I was stuck in two minds in regards to, I didn't want to be rude, and I wasn't sure. So it had a key code for a reason. It was so people
of course,
couldn't just wander off and get themselves, like, put themselves in harm's way or something, and and vice versa, people couldn't just wander in.
Yeah, of course.
So I wasn't sure if I was just talking to somebody that was an elderly person that was visiting somebody there and legitimate,
mm-hmm.
or if she was somebody, or if she was a resident. As I said, some of them were like fairly self-sufficient, and up until a point you couldn't notice that there was anything like particularly off about them. So I kind of was like, yeah, no problem. So basically she went away to get her bag, and I held the door for her, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to risk it. So I let the door go, and anyway, she was old people, some of them don't move too fast. She was just coming back just as the lift door was closing, so I seen the door just close in her face. And then I just hurried on out of there, being like, I don't know if I've just, like, I didn't want to have the awkward conversation being like, sorry pet, are you mental? Do you live here? Yeah. Equally, I didn't want to let her out if she was a resident. So yeah, as it turns out, I later found out she was a resident, and I did the right thing.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, I nearly helped an old woman escape from a residential care home.
Oh, what a poor lady. But I'm glad it was transpired that you did the right thing. It would have been very awkward if she was like a frequent visitor, and every time she looks, you're like, you left bastard.
So what about you? What's
I don't know.
The weirdest thing.
I don't know about weird. So I work in a commercial unit, a retail outlet unit, and basically rents out to various other retail outlets. If you can imagine a mall or I don't know what's the English term we have for a Shopping centre.
A shopping centre.
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry, Americanisms have absolutely fucked me. So when we enter our building to go to work, you use a service lift. You don't use the main customer lifts, just for not that we have to. It's just they're the only ones open in the morning. Now this lift is old. It's been there since the place opened, and it is rickety. Now, what's made it worse is at the moment we're having a lot of building work done at my place, so we have a lot of contractors in. Now, these contractors are filling the lift with lead and stuff, and it's just every time it's breaking down like every other week. Like, it just gets more and more of a parody of like a lift that's going to kill everyone. So like it starts and it'll just randomly stop, and like there's builders that have been trapped in there for like 3 hours at a time, and they send the repairman out. The repairman's like, yeah, this lift is a joke, you know, it's on its safety cable, it shouldn't even be doing that, you know, it's still safe to use, like, I'm just saying, like, if something happened, you know. So I'm like, oh, that's fucking good, isn't it? And it just gets worse and worse. Like, now the lights are broken in it, so every time you go in this lift, it's pitch black as soon as the door closes. So it lifts up.
That can't be good.
It's not like I'm not a particularly anxious guy with claustrophobia, but still, being in a pitch black lift is not nice, especially when you're in there with a bunch of random contractors in the morning who you don't normally work with. So it could be pretty eerie.
Yeah.
As far as like awkward or weird moments go, like, I'm a pretty fucking creepy guy at the best of times. So like, I'm the kind of guy that will do like really shit small talk and one-liners in a lift. Like, I won't crack any jokes. Like, you know, oh, the funny thing about lift jokes is there's fun on so many levels. Ha ha ha. Or any of that kind of bollocks. But, like, I'll always do, like, stupid stuff. Like, if it, like, a lift's closing or whatever and someone just gets caught. It's like, oh, nearly got you. Ha ha. The irritating thing is when I use the commercial lift at the front, what happens with lifts is what a lot of people should realise is they have two buttons that you press when you're summoning a lift. You press the top one, it means you're going to go up. You press the bottom one, it means you want to go down. A lot of people can't comprehend this, and it generally irks me. So a lot of times you'll find out that you're apologising to people because the lift's going the way that you press the button to go, and they're like, oh, I want to go to the basement and get out, why is it going up? Like, oh, sorry. But I can't be asked to explain the full process of how lifts work or lift etiquette. So I'm apologising, and they're just thinking I'm being a dick because I've gotten the lift first, or I've got in after them. It just coincidentally the lift was going to go up because someone had pressed it that way. It's, you know what? It's just an irksome thing. It's not even a funny story. I'm getting wound up now just thinking about it. I need to take myself out of it. But otherwise, no,
just briefly.
Yeah, go for it.
Just briefly, like just to draw a line under this. What's your opinion on farting in a lift?
Opinion on it, like, if you did it, like, if we're friends or not, like, that's a big no, like, fuck you. I've never really experienced many lift farts. Like, I've never got in after a lift and someone's farted. I wouldn't fart in a lift.
Oh, have you never got on a lift and like you're the only one in it, and then you fart and just be like, that's going to be trapped in there. Like, it's always a bit of a gamble because you're like, I don't know if I'm going to like, when I get to me desired floor, I don't know if the doors are open and I'm gonna have like a confrontation. And then that person's going to either, as the doors open, be hit by the fart or step straight into the fart and then probably immediately think, you fucking disgusting bastard. So it's always a bit of a gamble that there's going to be someone there. But otherwise, like, the payoff is that, like, if there's no one there, that fart's going to be trapped in there for, you know, it's going to have some half-life on it. Just trapped in an airless iron box.
See, I would imagine you being the kind of sociopathic person that you'd get the lift, you'd fart on the lift, and then you would be coming out to your floor, but then you see someone's coming in, but you've just done a really nice fart, so then you don't actually get off at your floor. You want to see the aftermath of what you've created, so you actually just stay in the lift with the other person, and then they're like, did you just fart? And then you just take your finger and just press it against the lips and just go, shh, don't ruin the moment.
On that note, I think on that brown note, I think we should call it a day.
Yep. Obviously, thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
As always, pleasure.
And obviously, thank you everyone who took the time to listen. Friends, family, strangers, really appreciate it. Much love, and we'll catch you next time.
Pete Doherty.
Oh, I can't find the pause. Oh, there it is. Oh, why has it only got pause?